Hey you guys, welcome back to Mayfield Ranch. I'm Katie. Today we're gonna go hang out in the garden, try to get it harvested, and see what we can get this week. Come on along. Of course, the animals, they'll follow us on out, see if they can get any snacks. So behind me, we've got the ground garden, and I thought I'd give you an update on it. I haven't talked to you guys about it much since we kind of did that transformation. Gary pulled up all the weeds, put cardboard down. So let me show you what it's looking like behind me. It's better than nothing, but there's still weeds coming through, and we're not able to just be out here throughout the week pulling all the weeds by hand. It's just not gonna happen. So let me show you what's going on here. So this zucchini plant is actually doing pretty well. There's a ton of flowers on it, and it's actually producing quite a bit of zucchini. So it certainly has helped out a lot to get some of the weeds out of here. It's made our zucchini and our yellow squash plants pretty healthy, pretty happy, and they're productive. So our bean plants are actually growing and producing some beans. So this row here is actually a little bit bigger than the one over there to the left. We planted all these seeds at the same time for fall garden. And our rattlesnake green beans are still producing, even though I've thought they've been on their way out for the last few weeks, but they're still producing. My cabbage here, though, is not really doing much at all. So we planted this a while back, and it's not really doing anything. This yellow squash has had better days, but the new zucchini that we planted a while ago for fall is actually doing pretty well. And this one on the end is producing zucchini for us already, so that's pretty quickly. So we do still have some tomatoes growing. Mostly what we're getting, let me show you, are these like yellow kind of pear tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. These were just some free seeds I got, rainbow cherry tomato seeds, and these happen to be yellow. The one plant that's doing well is yellow, so we'll get these harvested. We're still getting cantaloupes. Let me see if I can show you. So I almost took this plant out when we were getting ready to plant the full garden because it wasn't looking like it was doing much, but I'm so glad I didn't because it's producing a bunch of cantaloupe and it's still got some new babies on here to get going. Lola's over here helping herself to a little snack, so she's eating some of this Malabar spinach. Let's see if we can kind of sneak up on her here. Oh, she's caught. She thinks she's in trouble. These guys like to just sneak their own little snacks. They've started being able to reach the peas that I planted here. I was hoping to be able to harvest those myself, but the goats are getting them. Aw, Mama, do you need a little more attention? So all the peppers and everything over here are definitely overgrown. They're super crowded together, but they're producing really well. This basil I cut back is growing well. The tomatoes kind of flopped over the bin here. There's a volunteer tomato and it's growing. And we're just getting a bunch of peppers, so we're definitely getting a lot of bell peppers, a bunch of super hot little peppers in here. Next year I'll try to remind myself not to crowd them so close together, but they seem to be performing pretty well even though I do have them planted pretty close together. In my defense, when they were really tiny, it didn't look like they were that close. But it would definitely be easier to harvest if there was a little bit of space between them. But they're healthy and they're doing well and they're definitely producing a lot of peppers. Now on this side we've got the squash I planted for fall, so we'll see how that does. We've got another month and a half to 2 months before we're expecting our freeze. So this squash over here is the delicata squash, so it's growing, so hopefully it'll produce. We definitely cut it really close planting. This one has flowers on it though, so hopefully we'll get a little bit there. This tomato here looks almost dead, so I'll need to trim that back a little bit more. There's a few tomatoes on it, and then our yellow tomatoes healthy. If you hear crunching in the background, it's these guys. They're just chomping away at all these leftover snacks that we've given them over the fence. They're really enjoying their evening here. This is that black coat runner bean that I planted. So we've got 2 beans on it already. It did have these really pretty red flowers, so I'm hoping it'll continue to flower even though it's getting a lot cooler out. My little babies here are always up for a snack. So these green beans kind of grow over to their yard and they help themselves to a little snack as much as they can reach at least. So they're always out here when I'm in the garden asking for a little treat. They're so cute. Here's the delicata squash I planted for fall. It's actually performing pretty well. It's already producing fruit. I planted a bunch of others though at the same time and they're not doing so well. So this one's super tiny. It does have weeds around it. These other 2 over here though just look so small. They sprouted and they've never really grown. This squash here though that's growing at the base of all those beans. So hopefully that'll get bigger and produce for us. And then of course our green beans, these are actually yellow beans. They're already producing, so we're pretty happy about that. Now over here in this garden bed, there's a tomato kind of growing here. We've got a bunch of squash. We did get a volunteer honeydew melon that came through. So there's a couple melons it's produced and those are just about ready to harvest. And then Emma's over here around the corner, hoping maybe she can get a little treat if she's a really good girl. This is our volunteer cherry tomato plant. It's growing like crazy and it's growing in our driveway.
Here, come on.
So Gary came out here with me in the backyard garden to help harvest, and he noticed that these rose bushes are just growing right in the way. It makes it hard to even get in here, so he's trimming these up for me. It's pretty nice of him. So here's a look at our backyard garden. Not a lot different than it's been from week to week. Our butternut squash is definitely drying out. So some of it's dying back. Our peppers are just going crazy. They're still continuing to just produce a ton of peppers for us. And that butternut squash, even though part of it is dying back, we have a couple plants there. One of them is just sprawling out across this middle garden bed and onto the ground on the other side. This is a cherry tomato plant that just volunteered, so we've let it grow. Our lemon cucumbers aren't doing so well. They produced pretty well for a short time, but then they kind of died back. Here's the other side of that butternut squash. So it's just trailed over the middle garden bed and onto the ground. Our peppers here, so these are poblano peppers, and they're kind of knocking down the plant. They're getting so heavy, they're just really weighing it down. Our crazy out of control basil. So if you want to know how to save seeds from basil, I'll leave a link in the description box below. I've got a pretty easy way to do that. Long beans growing here, looking really pretty. We've got some super hot peppers back here that are still continuing to get ripe, and I am starting to see some color change, so hopefully those will ripen up, and some orange habaneros in the back over here. So I'm going to harvest these long beans and we'll get those chopped up and put in the freezer. More peppers here, mostly some bell peppers. We do have some jalapenos over here, so we're excited to get those harvested. A few lemon cucumber that I see that are ready to pick, and that lemon cucumber is just dying. I don't know what's going on with that vine, why it's dying, but it is. So we got a few. We're happy with that. More peppers right here in this garden bed. Remington is over here checking things out with me, making sure everything looks okay. As soon as he realizes I see him, he's just going to take off here because he's not actually supposed to be in this garden. So he'll hightail it right out of here. He's such a good boy. So this butternut squash plant has been looking kind of rough last couple weeks. So Gary's trying to get that cleaned up and get some of the dead stuff out of the way. It is so stinking windy out here. It's either like super, super hot or it's so windy and cold that it's tough to be out here working in the garden. Okay guys, let me show you the harvest this week. So we did get quite a bit. We're still getting quite a bit of veggies week to week. The bulk of what we're getting is peppers. I think next year we will not plant so many peppers, at least not so many super hot peppers. And hopefully we'll get more tomatoes next year. But we're getting a lot of squash. We're still getting some zucchini, some long beans. We've got some eggplant this week. So we're getting quite a bit and we're very happy with it. Thanks you guys so much for watching. I sure appreciate that. Be sure to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. See you next time.